So this takes place back in high school around 2001, 2002-ish. Not a huge satisfying scenario, but it sure felt like it back then. I was enrolled in a private high school back in the day. This means two things. Basically they can make up whatever rules they want, since they aren't governed by the state, and it means that most of the kids didn't live in the neighborhood the school was located in. Personally, I lived about 20 to 25 minutes away from school, which coupled with the fact that I wasn't a very organized person, meant I had trouble making it to school by the time the first bell rang. Well, our school really wanted to crack down on lates. They eventually adopted a system where, if you were late 3 times, you were awarded a detention. After 3 detentions, you received an in-school suspension. The punishment definitely didn't fit the crime, at least in my opinion. Another caveat to this scenario is that I didn't have my driver's license yet, so when I got my first detention, my dad had to adjust his day by 60 to 90 minutes to accommodate picking me up later after school, especially since I had a younger brother who was dismissed at normal time. So he had to pick him up, wait an hour or so, then come back for me. I eventually earned my second detention for being late, and my dad did not appreciate doing the whole extended pickup again. So cue a few weeks later, and I've already racked up another 2 lates. Then one morning I was rushing around trying to get ready and imploring my dad to get there on time, because if I didn't I would get a 3rd detention and an in-school suspension. To which he replied, "Okay, so what's the consequence for being absent?" Me, nothing. Dad, well if we're going to be late, I'll just call in and tell them you'll be absent today instead. So from then on, if we were ever running late, my dad would call the school and inform them I wasn't going to be there. My dad did things like this all the time. And he didn't care because, frankly, he didn't like most, if their rules either, and I was a good student. So in turn I got a couple weeks worth of days off by the time the school year was over, and 16-year-old me couldn't be happier. So, some backstory for this. My parents are abusive, and in this tale of compliance we will be focusing on the unstable crap wreck that is my mother, of whom the only ties I have is the circulating fluid that sustains our bodies. My parents also speak mostly Arabic, so anything my mother says is a translation, with the same context and meaning. It was also a few months ago, so everything might not be one-to-one. Now, onto the story. It was right in the morning. I had just woken up at 6 AM. I didn't sleep that well the night before, mostly from insomnia and the usual panic attacks. I was not in a good mood. As I'm carrying out my typical morning routine, I hear my crack-up crazy mother carry out hers, screaming at the top of her lungs at my sister because she did something small to piss her off. Cue daily morning panic attack number 1. My mother keeps screaming. She's probably annoyed the neighbors at this point. At 6:30 we all go downstairs. My mother is still yelling at my sister. She yells at me to go grab her water from upstairs, and I go and grab it. Cue daily morning panic attack number 2. I come back downstairs and open the garage door, and I see my mother hitting my sister because my sister, who is 5 at the time of this story, is complaining about how she doesn't like the shoes she has on. I tell my mother to stop. Now, let's stop for a moment to allow me to clarify something. On any normal day, I wouldn't do this. I'm deathly afraid of my parents, and most adults. I can hardly meet a new adult without stuttering and sweating. But on this day, I was in a horrible mood. Not because of the night before, not because of the yelling, not even because she was hitting my beloved sister. It was all of it, at once. That morning, I felt tired. I felt tired of every bit of bullcrap that comes my way. So I stood up to my mother. She tells me to make her stop. I ask her again. I ask her to stop hitting my sister and to calm down. This time she asks me, "What are you gonna do? Splash water on me if you're so tough?" I look down at her water bottle, which was in my hand. I open it by removing the lid. I ask her again to stop hitting my sister. This time she hits her just to bother me. So, since she so gracefully told me to splash water on her, I did. All of her water, all in that bottle, came flying out as I flicked it towards her, dousing her in water. After that she came after me instead, but she did stop hitting my sister. I did also get in a huge heap of trouble with my father, but I really didn't care. Again, this isn't something that would happen often, but I do look back on it as one of my finest moments. My parents are bullies. Horrible, childish, abusive bullies. That's why this is justified. These people are awful. They shouldn't be raising me or my sister, but I at least know I can stand up to them. Anyway, if you're here at the end, thank you so much for slogging through my garbage writing. I really appreciate it, and I would love to hear thoughts. My dad just told me this story, and I thought it fit so well here that I had to post it, so here it is. When my dad was growing up, every morning his bus to school would pass this bright purple house with yellow trim. Just super obnoxious paint job overall. It was so noticeable that everyone referred to it as the purple house, and it was kind of a running joke. Turns out, when this guy first bought the house, he painted it an off-white color and immediately got in trouble with the town board. Since he lived in a historical part of town, there were specific colors he couldn't paint his house, and the basic off-white color was in violation. He thought it was stupid, so he fought it but lost. The guy just spent several $100s repainting his house and now had to do it all over again, so he was pissed. As revenge, he finds the most obnoxious color that he could find that was technically in compliance with the code and paints his entire house that color, which ended up being bright purple. He kept his house that way for as long as he lived there, pissing off the board for years. Happened a few minutes ago. I work in a retail pickup department. Supervisor wanted me to finish an order and go to lunch. Customers showed up to pick up their orders. Nobody was back there to take them out, so I stepped up and got it ready. 2 more show up. Supervisor shows up to tell me to get back to my original order, who won't be there to pick up for at least 1 more hour, and then go to lunch. As she says this, someone else shows up to pick up their order, but I just keep managing my not going to pick up for an hour order. 2 people are back there, and 4 people are picking up. But I was told what to do, and I did it. As I walked out for my lunch, another person showed up for a pickup. 3 angry customers must not be a big issue to my supervisor, who often tries to be overly bossy. Today is one of those days. My last day here is in a week. If you want me to ignore customers so that you can feel like you're in charge, so be it. A few years ago, I worked at a crappy little small town Taco Bell as the drive-thru guy. The manager I worked with most for about 8 months of my 2.5-year career was probably the least likable person I have met, excluding a former coworker that would make uncomfortable physical contact with underage girls. The manager was a short, obese ex-druggie with a lazy eye. The manager liked to verbally abuse and bully inexperienced individuals like myself at the time. Possibly the only time I've ever been given the opportunity to be on our malicious compliance. Manager sends me on my 10-minute break and demands that I finish the large pile of dishes when I return. Okay, I responded innocently and handed them my headset. Normally, it'd be my job to do the dishes as the drive-thru employee, but working night shift, I was the only drive-thru worker besides the incompetent manager. Dishes were normally out of the question, seeing as how I had way too many other things that constantly took priority. I returned from my break and silently began to whittle down the dishes. After 10 minutes or so, I walked to the break room, an outlet the size of a closet with a table and chair in it, and see them sitting down and eating while they're supposed to be working in the drive-thru. Very conveniently, after I reach for my water and take a sip without acknowledging them, the headset beeps in their ear. They shoot up out of the chair, setting their half-eaten order down and furiously ask, "Why aren't you back in drive-thru?" I respond with a sassy, "You told me to finish the dishes when I got back." They grumbled and hobbled towards the drive-thru. After they finished the drive-thru order, they came over to me and handed me headset and asked very kindly, "Here, I'll do the dishes. Can you take over drive?" I responded with a simple, "Sure," and returned to my rightful corner with a very big grin, and the manager left me alone for a while after that. Thank you for watching. Slap that like button and comment your opinion on these stories below. I'm waiting. Write that comment. Seriously. Have you written it yet? If you don't comment, you make a bunny cry somewhere. You're not that kind of person, I know. Anyways, peace out and catch you tomorrow.